All right, folks, thank you for joining the second of two webinars today of Webinar Wednesday with XenTegra. The afternoon session is going to be focused on SD-WAN, and we actually have a customer to come on and talk about their deployment. And I'm really excited to do this webinar today because it's going to be a little fun and we're going to make it very interactive. So thanks for joining. And if it's your second webinar today, thanks for joining twice. All right, so I got a good panel of presenters today on the phone. My name is Pete Downing. I'm the CTO CMO for XenTegra. I'll be your host and taking you through some of the overview on SD-WAN. And then also on the phone, I got Trevor and Dave. So I'm going to let Trevor take a minute and give himself a nice introduction. So Trevor, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pete. So, hey, everybody. Trevor Mansell. I lead the managed services business for XenTegra today. That also includes the SD-WAN as a service as of this year. So, excited to be here. I've got about 10 years plus experience at Citrix in different engineering and architect roles. So, if you got any questions out there between Dave, Pete, and I, hopefully we'll be able to field a lot of those. So. Thanks.
Cool. And then also on the phone, we got Dave Warts from Northside. Dave, can you just give yourself a quick intro and kind of describe your history in the SD-WAN space?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pete. So Dave Wirtz, Senior Network Architect here at Northside Hospital in Metro Atlanta. Responsible for pretty much setting the direction of IT and network resources here. I've been an architect engineer. I spent several years as an SE in the SD-WAN market space prior to coming to Northside. So it was, I think I came with quite a bit of experience in terms of, how we're going to use it, what we're going to do with it. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you, Trevor and Dave for joining today. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun time. So, all right, so let's jump into the agenda for today. So we got a packed agenda. I'm gonna take you through just a quick overview on SD-WAN. I'm gonna try to lay the foundation before we just jump in asking Dave a bunch of questions. And then we're gonna have Q&A with Dave and ask about his environment, how he picked Citrix SD-WAN, why. And he's going to kind of share his insights on, how they're leveraging SD-WAN at Northside. And then Trevor's going to take us through, how XenTegra and Citrix are working together to provide not only SD-WAN directly to you as a customer, but also SD-WAN as a service through our MSP. And then I'll do a quick wrap up and we will close the webinar. Just a quick housekeeping. We are on GoToWebinar. And there is a Q&A dialogue. So I encourage you to ask questions today. In fact, questions enhance the experience and, help us make sure we're hitting the topics you guys want to hear. So definitely, make sure you ask questions. Trevor, Dave, and I will be monitoring the box, and we're going to make sure we get to all the questions. So definitely ask questions today. And with that, I like to do a couple polls because what that does is it helps us level set, how the topics, it helps us understand what you guys know about SD-WAN, and it also gives us some good insight into areas we might want to focus on. So the first question, a kind of gimme, but it's good to see where people's heads are at, is are WAN links cost a big concern for your enterprise today? So if you can take a minute and click on your answer, be much appreciated. I can't see who's answering. No one can see who's answering, so don't worry. It is anonymous, so don't feel like you can't answer. And obviously, I like to get the more people that answer, the more statistically relevant it will be. So I'll give a couple seconds on this. Try to get it up to at least 70%. All right, we're getting there. All right, so let's close and share. So, share it. So most of you said yes, they're a concern, and Dave will cover a little bit of the ROI that they're seeing. I'll discuss some of the areas where SD-WAN is critical to helping you save money, especially at the branch office. And hopefully we can take some of the no's and sway you over to yes, and also the not sure's. You can go and have some topics to talk about with your network guys. All right, so let's talk about branch offices. How many branch offices do you have? Again, estimation, you don't have to know exactly, but this is just curiosity question because that's obviously where, SD-WAN is very beneficial, is in the branch office scenario. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today before we cut over to the panel discussion. So we'll give a few more seconds as you guys throw your answers in. And get a couple more answers, going once, going twice, going 3 times. And we got a good spread here. So we got a lot at the 1 to 10 branch scenario. We got a good chunk at 11 to 20. We have some on the other end of the spectrum. So pretty cool. We'll talk about kind of branches and how that fits into the whole, SD-WAN discussion. And Trevor can definitely add some insight here because we have a great customer who has a lot of branches. All right. My enterprise is looking to move some or all of your data center to a cloud. So is it public cloud or is it private, or nope, you're not even looking at cloud? So just curiosity question, more of market research here. And again, if you take a minute to answer, again, no one can see your answer, so don't worry. And we'll give it a couple seconds. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and we're gonna share. So good spread here. So we got a lot looking at Azure. We got a good chunk saying, hey, I'm private cloud. So I'm guessing like an AT&T or Equinix or some other, hosted data center, maybe TierPoint. And then we got a lot of no's. So, it'd be interesting, if you definitely want to talk to me, I'd be curious to see, off to the side, if you want to reach out, I'd love to hear why you're not looking at cloud computing. All right, the final question. Are you guys using Office 365? So, just take a minute to answer this. Exchange on-prem, Exchange online, currently deploying, or no, on radar, not considering, or hey, we use Google Chrome Enterprise. Always get 1 or 2 in that bucket. So give this a couple seconds. Going once, going twice, 3 times, and we're gonna share. All right, so we got a good spread here. Wow. So we got a good chunk of you using Exchange Online. If you're having problems with OST files, definitely reach out and let us know. A lot of good solutions out there to help you with that. If you're in the deployment state, reach out. You might want to learn about this thing called Microsoft Fast Track. And if it's not on the radar, hey, reach out. We'd love to hear why you're not looking at Office 365. Maybe we can, sway or educate your team a little more on, why Office 365. All right, so thank you for taking a minute to take those polls. Again, they help us kind of feel out, where you guys sit and what you're looking at as far as SD-WAN and SaaS and cloud and all that good stuff. And believe it or not, cloud and SaaS fits very heavily in with SD-WAN because let's face it, as we spread out as an enterprise, our users work from home, our users travel, our users have smart devices. We have to make sure we're providing them the best service possible, right? So before we cut over to a panel discussion, I just want to do a quick overview on SD-WAN and just level set, the whole value of Citrix SD-WAN. And, if you really go back and look at the history of Citrix, Citrix has been in the network space now for, let's see, they started back early before 2005 with the acquisition of Sequoia, and they had the CAG, right? And then in 2005, they acquired, NetScaler, Net6, Orbital, and then over the years have acquired other network, companies. But it all started really back, with the Sequoia, and then it evolved very heavily when they acquired NetScaler and Orbital and Net6. So and then coincidentally, Trevor and I actually came in after that with the nice company called Ardence, which obviously impacts the network, right? But at the end of the day, if you look at the network, how it's evolving, where the issues are, your WAN is, the WAN edge, that means a lot now. That's, WAN edge can mean Azure. It could mean where's the Office 365, the nearest door, how many branches do you have, et cetera. Cloud, right? How do you make the experience for your cloud users the best possible, all right? And then finally, security, right? Maybe you want certain traffic going over the WAN, but you might not want other traffic going over the WAN. So the SD-WAN does a lot more than just optimization. And that's what a lot of people, I think, always assume is that SD-WAN is just WAN optimization, and no, it's not. It does a lot more than just that. So if you look at, kind of the driver here, branches are really the driver for SD-WAN. And as that's why I asked the branch question, because as you have more branches, you obviously want to make sure that your users at those branches have the best experience possible, right? But parallel to that, you also want to make sure your WAN costs are as low as possible. So, you might have MPLS in place, you might have a contract, but really what you need to start thinking about is, when does that contract expire, and is there other solutions? And I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago about this, and he sells MPLS, and he said, the biggest fear in that space is it's going to go away. It will not go away, but it's becoming less and less of a need because traditional internet's catching up. So you really start looking at costs, and then obviously securing the WAN links, but also ensuring reliability, failover, et cetera. So that's a lot of what SD-WAN does, but it also does a lot more. So let's take a look at, we look at the network today, and if you look at, how you might be configured, right? And again, I'm not assuming, but you really have to take a look at all your traffic going over the WAN link. So let's say you do have MPLS from point A to point B, and you have all this traffic going out over the WAN link and exiting your data center. And think about the experience for your users. And that's really what it comes down to is user experience. But then we need to balance that with security. So for example, yeah, you might want Office and Exchange going over your MPLS for security. But again, is that the most practical path possible? And can you get that experience better for the user, but also ensure security? Or do you want all your internet traffic going over the MPLS? Maybe you want some, but not all. And that's where SD-WAN can come into play and break it out and allow you to do secure browsing scenarios, et cetera. So there's a lot of different options when you look at the whole notion of the software-defined, wide area network, right? And so if you look at, the different things, you're hairpinning, and essentially, what that means is, hey, I'm gonna take let's say Office and Exchange and have it connect out through the door of my data center, and then hairpin back over the MPLS, the WAN link, to come back to me. So you think about the experience for the user. So is there a better way to do this? And the answer is yes, and that's where SD-WAN fits in. So imagine this. Now I can break out the different streams or the different connections, whatever you want to call them, and then enable, not only break them out, but have them be secured, have them be efficient. So, I'll cover a little bit of this in a minute with Office 365, Azure, things like that. But you can also, if you are a Citrix Cloud customer, there's also the Citrix Direct service to help with branch office locations as well. So a lot of the question and answer that I get with customers is, oh, I use Citrix Cloud. Is it always going to go out through my data center? The answer is no, right? And then let's say you want to break out traffic to the internet, and you want to secure it. You can leverage technologies like Zscaler, Palo Alto, or even Citrix's own secure browser service. So there is a lot of great value in SD-WAN and being able to break out the various traffic scenarios with SD-WAN. What's great about it is SD-WAN can identify these various applications, protocols, et cetera, and that's what makes SD-WAN very unique in the space. So if we really look at the branch office, if you look at your branch today, you probably have a router, you probably have a firewall, you probably have, something to manage path control, or it's coupled in with your firewall. And then you have this WAN opt appliance, right? And so that's where SD-WAN can also help, is the consolidation of all these different things at the endpoint, and it simplifies the branch. So, whether you got a branch of 10 users or 1,000 users, there's a solution for each scenario in each size. And it can be as small as the Verizon router that sits at your house and as big as a 1U server, right? And so again, what's great about SD-WAN is it's not just about this WAN opt, which is where a lot of people typically will bucket SD-WAN. It's also about, hey, I can route, so I can terminate the edge. Hey, I can do firewall, so it's a stateful firewall. Hey, I can do path control, and that's where Citrix is very unique, is they can do a lot around path control, app prioritization, quality of service, et cetera. And there's a lot of great stuff they do. And I could spend a whole day on it. In fact, I do spend a day on it. So if you're interested, go to XenTegra.com/events. I do a one-day workshop just on SD-WAN. You play with labs, you can get your hands dirty. It's really fun. So, but let's talk about one differentiator. So if you take a look at the traditional HDX ICA connection, this is where Citrix is very different. Citrix can take their own protocol and break it out into the various streams. And I have another cool slide, but I want to keep this a little bit high level today, but you can separate out the various streams and prioritize and deprioritize based on, video versus audio, et cetera, and be able to provide the best solution when you're doing VDI with Citrix, or even XenApp, XenDesktop, virtual apps and desktops with Citrix. So that's a key differentiator. So if you're on the fence about which SD-WAN product you're going to use, I would definitely say this is one of the key differentiators, as well as the ability to identify and prioritize applications. The other differentiator is also around Office 365. So if you look at how Citrix SD-WAN is positioning itself in the market, they're one of the only few vendors right now that have direct tie-in to Office 365 in their APIs. And if you really look at how a lot of folks structure their data center today, a lot of the traffic is going out to their central data center and then out the door, out the front door to the nearest data center, right? And so you really think about the experience for the user, it's going to slow it down. It's going to be a horrible experience, especially if they're using Teams or they're using Skype or they're using Exchange or OneDrive. Do you really want that traffic going over your WAN link? All right. And so you really look at, you have a branch office, you have your link, your data center, and then your front door. Do you really want this traffic going over the link when you could go more direct to Microsoft? And that's really where Citrix started focusing with Microsoft and SD-WAN. So if you really say, well, how do I do it? Here's the right approach. What if I could break it out from the branch and go out directly to the global network? All right. And then leverage SD-WAN to secure it, to ensure that it's efficient and optimized. And that's really where Citrix is differentiating themselves in the Office 365 Azure space. So again, that's something to think about as you start looking at the different solutions out there. And I'm sure Dave will cover why he picked SD-WAN. And in fact, I know he's gonna, and I'm gonna ask him a question on that. But really what happens is you start seeing great performance, because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, the user is our customer, and experience for the user is critical. So we're going to give them faster download times. We're going to give them faster upload times. We're going to give them better quality on their calls, right? And so no more complaining, oh, Skype dropped or Teams dropped, or I was trying to talk to Trevor and it was blipping, right? And so that's one of the main advantages of trying to get SD-WAN coupled with Office 365. So one of the things that you need to know is that Citrix has direct access into the APIs to be able to set different policies within Office 365. So now you can break out the traffic and make it trusted, and be able to now directly go to the front door of the nearest Office 365 data center, as opposed to having to plop it over your WAN link, going to the front door of the data center and pushing it out of the backhaul there. So that's one key advantage. The other key advantage is they also have, and then by doing this, what you're seeing is obviously faster upload speeds, faster opening of documents if they're hosting them in OneDrive, and then obviously faster download speeds. And then you can slice and dice the app. So for example, you might want your email and OST going through the data center, right? Because maybe you want to scrub it, so you can separate out the traffic as well and get fairly granular on how you identify the traffic. And then finally, with Azure, it's going to help you if you are looking at Azure and you're seriously looking to migrate to Azure. It's also going to help you on ramp indirectly to Azure, but you can also take advantage of what's called their virtual WAN. And Citrix SD-WAN can get settings directly from Microsoft and their REST API, but also integrate directly with the virtual WAN API, so you can take advantage of breaking out and making sure you get to the nearest data center. But then this also helps you with on-ramping to Azure if you're seriously considering Azure as a data center replacement solution, or even a DR scenario for your data center. So again, as I close out and jump into the Q&A, really let's say the two differentiating, well, there's a lot of differentiating factors, but the two big ones are going to be Office 365 and the way that Citrix can get very granular with their streams and be able to prioritize and deprioritize the various streams within the HDX ICA protocol. And then you couple that with the ability to directly tie into the Microsoft REST APIs, as well as be able to identify there's 4,000 templates just for applications within the SD-WAN appliance to be able to identify and provide different scenarios with various applications, whether SaaS or local. So why Citrix SD-WAN? Well, Dave is probably going to cover this, but 3 points, right? One, let's face it, user experience is key. And we want to make sure that our customer, our users are happy. And two, it's easy to deploy. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then finally, 3, if you are seriously considering SaaS applications, Azure, AWS, any cloud, it's a great solution. And Dave and Trevor can actually add some value here because we do have a lot of customers who are looking at that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump in with Q&A with Dave. And Dave, first off, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for being a great customer of XenTegra. We love having you as a customer. And so thanks for joining us. So the first question is, and it's an easy question, what are your WAN challenges? So you can highlight.
How long have you got?
Yeah, we got a good 35 minutes.
So our big WAN challenges were we've got legacy WAN technologies that are out there. So one of the things that we were trying to move away from was we've got what's called an AT&T switched Ethernet network, and it's just basically it's a big L2 network. The problem we have with it is AT&T. One of the big problems is AT&T only allows 255 MAC addresses on there. Because we were doing some VLAN trunking and some other stuff across there, we hit that limit really, really quick. And as soon as we hit the limit, AT&T runs a script, kills it so that half of our sites just disappear. And, we spend hours going back and forth with AT&T about why we did this. One of the other issues with it is we're still running RIP on it. And I can probably imagine that there's a lot of people laughing on the other end of their phones right now, but yeah, we're still running RIP as a WAN protocol, no less, across that L2 WAN. So, my big driver is to get away from that, and the cost associated with it was just ridiculous. So, we're trying to simplify our WAN infrastructure down to roughly 3 WAN types, either, an AT&T ring, Sonnet ring, or MPLS, or SD-WAN. We've got some challenges with getting MPLS in certain locations, but for the most part, this is going to go out to 100 or probably about 150 sites, I think, when all is said and done, for SD-WAN to get rid of that AT&T switched Ethernet network.
Nice. All right. So then that kind of leads us into the next question. Why did you choose Citrix SD-WAN? And someone actually asked kind of similar question. How did Northside Hospital determine their supplemental? Oh, well, actually, we'll hold that one for now. I thought I was going to say brand, but we'll come back to that question. But why did you choose Citrix SD-WAN? And I know you have a great history within this space as well.
Yeah. So like I said early on, I did about 2 years as an SE in the SD-WAN space with a competitor. And having to sell against Citrix, obviously, as an SE, as you got to know what your competitor does and how it does it and everything else. And having sold against Citrix for, better part of 2 years and lost to them on several occasions because the way the technology works, it just made sense. So if, and the reasons why we chose it is, there's several things. Most SD-WAN products that are out there right now, the way they look at each individual path that makes up the overlay, the SD-WAN itself, they look at it in terms of, they use ping, and they ping the path, and they look at the round trip time, and they say, okay, great, this path has 10 milliseconds round trip, and sometimes that's it. Others may go a little bit further. They may look at latency, loss, and jitter, but they're looking at it in terms of a round trip from the branch to the head end. Citrix takes a little bit different approach. Oh, and the other, the ping interval that they use, in some cases is 3 seconds, some cases 10 seconds. So your sampling interval is only 3 to 10 seconds, which has implications when it comes to failover time. Citrix took from what I saw, took a vastly different approach, and they look at each of these WAN links in a unidirectional fashion. So the branch is looking at the data center and sending traffic from the branch to the data center, and the data center is measuring how long it takes to get from the branch to the data center. Conversely, the data center is doing the same thing out to all the branches. So, and they're doing this every 20 milliseconds. So your sampling interval, in the absence of any traffic, from what I see, in the absence of traffic, you're sampling every WAN link unidirectionally every 20 milliseconds, so 50 times per second. As soon as you start putting traffic on the wire, every packet now is a probe that is measuring latency, loss, jitter, and congestion on the WAN path. So what that allows me to do is now I've got, at the bare minimum, I've got 50 samplings per second of how each of my WAN paths is behaving. And when I need to when I need to fail over, I don't control when it fails over. The SD-WAN solution can look at the path and say, I need to move the traffic because WAN link A has 2 milliseconds more jitter than WAN link B, so it just moves the traffic over to WAN link B. And it does so independent of me or any interaction between me or my team. And to me, it just made sense. I can fail over, if I have a hard failover on a path, roughly the failover time is 2.5 times the polling interval. So if I've got 10 milliseconds of latency, my failover time is 25 milliseconds to fail over from one path to another. In our organization, and going back to your slide about how, Citrix prioritizes the ICA traffic, the contents of the ICA traffic, not just the overall ICA traffic. We moved to a hosted cloud that is all ICA based for our electronic medical records. The ability for us to to classify that traffic inside of the overlay, polling every 20 milliseconds with a failover time of 25 milliseconds, it was a no-brainer. Some of the other features that we take advantage of personally are packet duplication. So packet duplication for our ICA traffic. The worst thing in my world is having a doctor call me and scream at me, or one of my engineers who I happen to have sitting in the room listening in with me today, is to have a doctor call up and yell about, hey, why is my performance, I'm getting bad performance. So we take our Citrix traffic and we duplicate the frame on every WAN link, so that if we do have packet loss, if we do have a circuit go down, it doesn't really matter to me. I've got a second packet in flight on another path, and the doctor never ever sees the fact that we lost a WAN link or we transitioned data from one WAN path to another. It just makes it seamless, and we're starting to roll out VoIP as well. That's a feature that will be rolled into our VoIP rollout as well. So those are kind of the big ones why we chose Citrix.
And the theme there is, if you kind of go to the root of it, is a user experience, right? And so, and also less phone calls to you at 12 o'clock in the morning, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about quality of, everybody's QoS. No, this is quality of experience over QoS. At the end of the day, you can have QoS, and if it starts policing traffic, well, somebody's going to feel it. In this case, nobody feels it because the way the QoS engine works, it's got to be the most powerful QoS engine that I've ever worked with. It's amazing. Once you get into the nuts and bolts of it, it is really amazing.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of the things I do like especially when I'm doing my workshops. I kind of hone in on that, and I say, if you want to do any lab, you should do the QoS lab, just because that's where it's very powerful. Cool. But you're kind of getting into it, but let's talk about how you're deployed. So how you currently deployed, and we actually have a few questions. So there's a question around how did you determine your supplemental bandwidth requirements? Are you using MPX or VPX, hardware versus virtual? And then there was a comment around, hey, do you need 2 internet sources to use this solution? So you'll probably cover all that as you go through it, but just some topics that you could probably hit upon as you go through, like how you deployed, et cetera.
Sure. So we've just got done with our quote unquote phase 1 deployment, which was kind of our proof of concept. We didn't go through a formal proof of concept process because, frankly, I knew the technology worked, and it wasn't really a hard sell to make it through our purchasing here. So we have a single head end right now. It's an HA pair in our head end in our co-located data center. we have a single gig handoff from the data center from our colo provider, which is QTS. So we're not too concerned about the fact that we have a single handoff from the provider, because we're leveraging, it's a shared Ethernet service from the data center. So we're taking advantage of how many ever carriers are brought into our colo facility. So it's an HA deployment there. It sits behind a firewall. As it normally would. We've got a static NAT through the firewall, things like that. The boxes physically sit in our DMZ, and then the internal connectivity is passed back to our to the data center core. We're using BGP. We're leveraging pretty much anything you can in terms of dynamic routing from the appliances themselves. So again, on the head end, we're running iBGP. We're peered to our route reflectors. We're doing some communities, some route tagging. All that good stuff that we can take advantage of within the head end. As far as a branch perspective, though, we've got, what do we have? About 7 deployed right now. I think we've got another 15 or so that you guys should be getting POs for in the next couple weeks. And those are being deployed right now with a pair of just base, the cheapest broadband business class circuits we can get, which right now are 75 down, 15 up from Comcast. So we have, each of these sites has a pair of Comcast circuits, 75 down, 15 up. We do realize and we acknowledge the risk of, yes, we understand that they are 2 broadband circuits from the same provider. We are working on resolving that through a bandwidth aggregator so that we can get different carriers and things like that. One of the other things we're doing to mitigate some of that risk is moving forward all of our branch appliances, which, for everybody on the phone, they're the small 210 little Soho appliance. We're deploying those with cellular radios now, so that if we do have, both broadband circuits get cut or Comcast goes sideways on us, at least we can fail back to cellular. So that's in the works right now, and part of how we're deploying that cellular component is we're not going to allow, again, this goes back to the power of the QoS engine, we're not going to allow bulk traffic over that cellular connection. It's going to be strictly, limited to voice over IP and for our electronic medical records traffic, and that's it. We don't really, again, as far as bandwidth goes and how we determine circuit sizes and things like that at the branch, unless it is a specialty type of branch, and if you're in the medical side of things, we have what we call ambulatory, which are physician practices, which just do basic, hey, I'm going to see my doctor to see why my knee hurts. And then we have what are called imaging sites, which are, they're doing MRIs, they're doing X-rays, radiology, things like that. So for the physician practice type sites, the ambulatory sites, they get the bare minimum bandwidth that we can buy from business class, which happens to be 75 down, 15 up. They get 2 of them. So they basically get, from their perspective, they have a 150 meg down and 30 meg up circuit. The radiology sites we treat a little bit differently. They're kind of, we look at them on a case-by-case basis, and some of those may get DIA circuits where, you're guaranteed 100 down, 100 meg synchronous bandwidth, things like that. We tackle those on a one-off basis. But for the most part, everything we deploy right now, it follows the standard baseline of a 75 down, 15 up circuit times 2 and an LTE radio. So I know that was kind of a long answer. I think I probably missed a question or 2 in there. And if I did, so remind me.
Let's comment a little bit more on the CJ's question. He's asking, do you need 2 internet sources at each site? I'm guessing the answer is no, but you can kind of add your spin to that, right?
You don't. Ideally, you would in the event that you have a failure of a circuit or something like that. But you don't. One of the really cool things with Citrix is, with the Citrix SD-WAN is, if I have packet duplication enabled, I will duplicate packets on a single link if it needs it. So, for instance, like my EMR traffic, if I only have a branch with 1 internet link, my EMR traffic will be duplicated, and the reason it does so is so that if there is packet loss, that we can mitigate the impact of the packet loss by having 2 packets in flight. So you don't need two paths. Ideally, you would use two, whether it's two broadband or an MPLS or two, a broadband MPLS or, pick your flavor of whatever. But ideally, you would use two. Do you have to? No.
So, hey, Dave,
Oh,
I got a question for you. So,
Sure.
can you talk to, the different services that you're using, at the edge? Because and you can confirm or deny this. I mean, you're deploying these in edge mode today, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you just kind of talk to why you did that and how that kind of impacts things?
Yeah, so our deployment right now, and again, I'll always say it right now, it's fairly simple. The deployment is a pair of internet circuits, as I said. They terminate directly into the NetScaler appliance. The NetScaler has a mode on an interface called untrusted. So what that'll allow me to do is plug my broadband circuit directly into the NetScaler. The NetScaler will only, or the appliance will only talk back to the data center to known port or known endpoints on that circuit. So if somebody tried to access the NetScaler appliance on that interface, it would basically black hole them. So we did it really to keep it simple and keep the cost down. We were talking about, okay, we could deploy a firewall at these branch sites. Well, now we have to pay for the firewall. We got to pay for support on the firewall, when we can just take advantage of the fact that we can take that internet circuit, plug it straight into the appliance, tell it is untrusted, and have a nice day. We're good to go. A couple of things we do not do at the moment. We don't do any direct to internet access out of these sites. So everything is backhauled to the data center and hairpinned. The reason we have to do that is because we have some HIPAA compliance issues, some data exfiltration issues where we have to make sure that we are running all of our traffic through DLP, data loss prevention solutions, things like that. One of the things we are investigating, however, though, is because we do provide guest internet access at these remote sites, and we are currently backhauling guest internet traffic. One of the things we're looking at, as Pete mentioned earlier, you can use Zscaler or the Palo Alto Global, what is it called? Global Protect Cloud Service, I think is what it is. We're looking at deploying Global Protect Cloud Service for guest wireless access at these remote sites. So like I said, our deployments at the remote sites are fairly simple at the moment because we're literally just getting out of our phase one. As things progress, we'll obviously start taking advantage of more and more of what we can leverage the boxes for. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was your question. So, cool. All right. So we got a lot of great comments, but all right. So, as you start rolling out more sites, how long is it taking you to get new sites up and running? I guess from a simplification point of view, can you talk about how you're rolling them out and how you're potentially leveraging us too?
Yeah, I actually just turned over and look over the shoulder at my engineer because he's the one who's doing it. I think it takes us about 5 minutes, give or take, to clone a new site. So we just basically go in, right click on a site, say clone, change the IP addresses, change a couple descriptions, apply the config to the box, take the box out to the site, plug the internet circuits in, and we're done. So to turn up a new site from a configuration standpoint, the more we do it, the better we get, but under 5 minutes, literally. And then take the box and plug it in. So one of the things that I know is probably going to come up is, do we use the zero-touch deployment? Not at this point in time, only because most of our, as I said early on, we're just Metro Atlanta. So most of our remote practices, of which we've got, give or take 100 to 150, most of our practices are within a 2 to 3 hour drive. So it's just something we haven't tried yet. I'll leave it at that from the zero touch. But to turn up a new site, 5 minutes.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll try to get you to try zero touch in the future. How about that? So
I'm willing to try.
Yeah, nice. All right. So what's the current state of your deployment right now? Your WAN and post SD-WAN deployment. How you guys looking and what's
so far everything
the future into?
Yeah, so far everything has been fantastic. I mean, aside from some people not paying their internet circuit bills and their sites go down because they didn't pay the internet circuit, we've had zero issues. As I said, we're currently, our head end is only in one data center at the moment. We chose that place because we know we don't have power cooling or bandwidth restraints there. But the future is really bright. I mean, like I said, we've got another 15-ish coming in. And what our plan is as this AT&T switched Ethernet, this big L2 RIP mess that we've got, as those circuits come to term, those contracts come to term, we're just flipping them over from this L2 to a broadband internet connection or a pair of broadband internet connections. And we figured our rate was going to be about 10 a month, give or take. And as it gets closer toward the end, it will probably ramp that up. So, we're looking at probably doing, 90 sites this year, another 90 sites this year, and then hopefully the remaining 60 or so the following year. So we're hoping that our cutover is in the next, I'd say 18 months, that we should have all of these remote sites, which is, like I said, about 150, should all be cut over onto SD-WAN at that point. And redundant head end in our second data center.
Nice.
Hey, Pete. I don't know if everybody heard that. He said it took him 5 minutes to clone a new site. So, if that didn't hit you, basically what that means, that should mean to you is that, from a project perspective, if you're looking at taking on, deploying SD-WAN, a lot of the work, the design and the assessment design is the biggest part of the deployment typically. So from a services point of view, to go out and deploy additional sites once you have the head end up is very light, and I think Dave can attest to that, and that's kind of been the norm for most rollouts. It's not super heavy on the services side, so that's something that you can benefit from, obviously.
Nice. Cool. All right. So let's talk about the future. So what's your, if you take a look at your your SD-WAN plans, and obviously you guys are growing, and what are you going to do further with SD-WAN, and what does the future look like? And, maybe couple in the ROI as well. Like, what was the ROI that you saw by leveraging SD-WAN?
Like I said, the future, as I said, we're looking at, I would rather it be 16 months, but it's probably about an 18-month time frame to where we should have all of our ambulatory sites cut over to SD-WAN. So, as I said, we've got about 7 sites right now. 18 months, we should have 150 sites. We've got a couple unique use cases that we're experimenting with right now, where we have it's literally a cart that gets rolled off of a van that does imaging. So we have it's cardiology. I'm sorry, not imaging. And we're toying around with the idea of putting 3 different Cradlepoint modems, so that we can take this cart wherever we need to, into indigent care or into remote facilities that we don't own, where we don't have connectivity to, permanent connectivity, things like that. So we're experimenting with some of that. The future is bright for it here. I mean, we are 100% all in on these remote sites cutting over to SD-WAN. The biggest driver is the cost. Prior to deploying SD-WAN at these remote sites, our remote sites had a footprint of, a Cisco router and a Cisco Catalyst 9300 switch. Well, if you do the math on that, that's almost a $17,000 proposition per site, times 150 sites. That's a lot. That is a lot of capital, plus the support costs and things like that. It's just the capital side of it was just extremely expensive. Not to mention the circuit side. In some of these cases where we were pulling this AT&T switched Ethernet technology to, it's an old technology. We had one site where we were paying upwards of $10,000 a month for a circuit. Let that sink in. And it was a 100 meg circuit.
Wow.
Let that one sink in per year. It's just astronomical. So when we factor, you factor the ROI for that alone, my ROI was 2 weeks.
Wow.
You can't argue. Yeah. So most of for the most part, our ROI is under, and when I factor it, I don't just factor it for the SD-WAN appliance alone. It's, the SD-WAN appliance plus any switch gear that I've got behind it. Our ROI on average is anywhere between 2 to 3.5 months, depending on the site. In some cases, that one site was the outlier. He was 2 weeks. But yeah, 2.5 months.
Wow. All right. Nice.
So it really wasn't a hard sell when it came to finance at all.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like it is. All right. So one other question, just because I don't think we answered it, and I want to make sure we get all the questions. Hector asked, are you guys a Skype shop, and did you guys address the need for quality of service around? You talked about VoIP, but are you guys using Skype as well, or no?
We use Skype internally. However, most of these sites where the physician practices are not on our federated Skype, so it wouldn't be an impact to them. Again, the biggest driver for these ambulatory sites were the fact that they are accessing our EMR system, which is a cloud-based EMR, and it's all ICA traffic. So that was the biggest driver on that one.
Nice. All right. Cool. Well, hey, everybody, keep the questions coming. We got about 10 more minutes. I want to pass over to Trevor right now. He's going to take us through, how does Citrix SD-WAN and XenTegra and how we're bringing this to market for you guys. So, Trevor, what I'll do is I'll let you kind of highlight our managed service practice, and then I'll let you talk about SD-WAN and where it fits in.
Yeah, no, thanks, Pete. So, from a managed service perspective, we are XenTegra. We're absolutely focused on the virtual, apps and desktop, space, and that's always, a big, focus for us. And when it comes to managed services, it, goes right along with that. So, going back 2 years now, when we started, offering, support services and managed services, we now, are able to come in, and for the customers that are looking for more of a turnkey, they want XenTegra to provide, to be their Citrix team. We can come in, provide the full turnkey monitoring, support, management, of that ongoing, for that environment. So that's something that, if that is of interest to you, we'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that. On the support side, if you're not looking to outsource that element in your environment, and you're looking to just having XenTegra join your team from a support perspective and be there to call when you need them, we do have support plans now, which for more break fix reactive support. But I think they've been super popular. Obviously, we've got a big bench full of Citrix specialists and Microsoft specialists that can help not only just fix your Citrix problem, because a lot of times it's something in the environment, and it's Microsoft. There's a networking element to it. So that support comes in and doesn't just say just only focus on the Citrix element of it. And so we can work with you have support agreements with Citrix, with Microsoft, with your server vendors, and we can kind of bring that together and provide you overarching support for that. So we're excited that we have that, and if feel free to reach out to me, and be happy to talk to you more about it. So we are talking about SD-WAN today. So as of this year, Citrix has an MSP program, and we're one of a very few, I think 2 on the East Coast, that can provide SD-WAN as a service. So if you're looking at wanting to come in and replace your existing WAN managed environment with a Citrix SD-WAN solution that's turnkey, we're now able to do that and do it on an OpEx. So being billed monthly, as a service versus a CapEx type project. That's something that we can now provide with this new program. And also, again, if you want to go a step farther and have us help procure, manage, and project manage your circuits, we can do that as well. So again, kind of a full turnkey, because there's a lot, there's more than just the actual SD-WAN appliance that goes into one of these rollouts, obviously. So, But yeah, so that's definitely something to consider if you're if you're in the position of looking at the solution, and you're wanting something more than just replacing your existing telecom managed lease solution with with an SD-WAN box, and you don't necessarily have the resources in place to manage and monitor that. So
cool. And
yeah.
then just a quick how we tie into Microsoft as well.
Yeah, so in addition, so we've talked a lot about how the SD-WAN solution integrates into Microsoft. So I just wanted to point out here that XenTegra Microsoft is one of our strategic partners. We're a gold cloud partner and direct CSP. So we do a lot of Citrix on Azure. A lot of, obviously, every Citrix project is a Microsoft project as well. So we partner very, very close. Got a lot of joint integrations and funding and programs that we can leverage as well on behalf of our customers. So, and when it comes to SD-WAN, we've done quite a few SD-WAN deployments with Azure, with Azure hosting the MCNs. So it's yeah, so we've got that covered for you if that's something that you're looking at.
Yeah, and something to kind of sidebar here. Actually, starting next week in New York, I'm going to be launching a workshop that's focused on Microsoft Azure with Citrix Cloud, virtual apps and desktops, but also Citrix Workspace. So I'll be launching that. I'm going to be bringing it to Raleigh. I'm also going to be bringing it to Atlanta, Birmingham, and doing some online sessions as well. So keep an eye out for those on our site. All right, cool, Trevor. Thank you for kind of highlighting the MSP, and again, if I see any questions that pop up, I'll definitely want to pull you guys in. But before we wrap up, just give a quick just quick tie into who is XenTegra, and kind of ride on top of what Trevor was talking about earlier. Is we are in the traditional sense a value-added reseller, but Andy, our CEO, started the company with two premises in mind. One, he wanted to really focus on customer enablement, and this was stemmed back to when he was a SE at Citrix, and he would go on site to customers like Dave, let's say, and they'd own this great stack of solutions, but not have the enablement to get it up and running or have the training, et cetera. So Andy said, you know what, there's got to be a better way. And so he started XenTegra and started doing these free one-day workshops and trainings and et cetera. And then through that, we really have great partnerships with our other our partners, right? And so, our goal is simple. We want to enable our customers, and we want to have true partnerships with all the partners we work with. And so if you look at it, as Trevor said, we can sell you Citrix SD-WAN, but not only sell you it, but we can also manage it, we can implement it, we can help you design it, et cetera. So we have a full bench of consultants. We have a great support team. And if you go and look at XenTegra, we have a great experience in the end user computing space. And our goal is simple. We just want to help you get through your digital transformation initiatives and really pick the best solutions. And the reason why you work with a partner is because you can have one vendor, multiple solutions, and a single invoice. And if you are working with another partner, hey, no big deal. But what I ask you to think about is what value are they bringing, especially if you're working with a larger one, what we like to call the LARs, right? And so really think about the value they bring to the table, because that's one thing that I love about working with XenTegra is you can hold me accountable and I'm going to make it right. And you can hold Trevor accountable, he's going to make it right. So here's a kind of a snippet of our partners, and this list is growing. We bring on new partners every day. I'm actually working through a new one right now as we speak, and it's going to be pretty cool. But at the end of the day, we pick our partners and we really focus on how to be a true partner with the various vendors on the slide. But if you have any questions at all on any of these vendors, let us know. Between Trevor and I, we can answer a lot of the questions, and there's a lot of great partners here. But as you can see, Citrix and Microsoft are our strategic focus. And here's just a handful of our customer base. Special thanks again to Northside for joining us today. And oh, by the way, Dave's going to be doing a great session at Citrix Synergy. So if you're heading there, definitely look up his session. He's going to be highlighting kind of some similar stuff that he highlighted today. Probably will have some PowerPoint and definitely seek out that session. You can get some more insight into how Northside is using SD-WAN. So and definitely head to Citrix Synergy. Again, bookmark our page. So if you haven't bookmarked this page, you're missing out. I am going to be adding a bunch of new events for the second half of the year. And if this is your first time interacting with XenTegra, go on there. You're going to see a lot of great events. And the great thing is they're all free. So definitely check it out. And if you do /feed at the end, it's an RSS feed, and you can definitely save that and get updated on the fly as I add new events. Again, so as you sit here today, think about these things. So if you want to dig deeper, reach out to us. If you want to find out, hey, if you're already looking at buying SD-WAN, let us know. We can help you quote it out. We can be your reseller. And if you want to get a deeper demo, let us know. We can help you. But most importantly, IT doesn't sleep, right? And so, yeah, you might be able to do it, but let's face it, you only have so many hours in a day. Let us know. We can help you. We have a great bench of consultants. We're one of the only partners in the country right now that can do SD-WAN. We pride ourselves on our network knowledge. So, and then finally, I like to close with this. One of the things that drew me to joining XenTegra 2 years ago was I love how we invest in our customer base. And one of the things we do to invest is if you renew your Citrix stack through us, we will take those dollars and invest them back into you. And one of those things you can do is attend Citrix Synergy. So you can take your renewal dollar rebate and apply it to attending Citrix Synergy. So in some cases, you might get there for free, or you might spread it out and get a couple tickets for a couple people on your staff. Whatever way you want to use the money, we don't care, but we're going to give you dollars back so you can use them to get to Citrix Synergy. If you can't go to Synergy, you can use them for layer 8 training, consulting dollars, and we'll work with you on how to use those rebate dollars. All right, so something to think about as you sit here today. If you have a renewal coming up, definitely let us know. If you want to get to Synergy and you don't have a renewal coming up, we can still take $200 off the ticketed price. So definitely reach out if you're interested on that. And then finally, I'm going to take a check on the Q&A dialogue. I think we answered most of the questions. So Edith, I'll put my email up in a second. Definitely pop me an email and I'll get you the information. So, and Steve, thank you for the comment. And yes, we will be at Citrix Synergy. So definitely pop me an email and I can help you out and get you plugged into our dinner as well. So with that, I'm going to close out the session. Here's the emails on for you guys to jot down. Mine's a little, if you want, you can even make it easier. It's pete@xentegra.com. Trevor can copy. You should copy me, by the way, and do it. and then if you have any other questions, let us know. We can answer them as best as possible. And if we didn't answer your question, let us know. We can answer more directly via email. So feel free to reach out. And again, definitely check out Dave's session at Synergy. We are going to be at Synergy. So if you're going to be at Citrix Synergy, let me know. I'd love to invite you guys to our dinner that we're having on the first night. And then finally, hey, thank you, Trevor. Thank you, David, for joining today. And I know you guys are busy guys, and thank you for taking an hour out of your time to hang out with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
All right, folks, we'll have a great rest of your Wednesdays, and look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. We are going to be talking about Citrix Gov Cloud, and then I'm going to do another session on pre-Synergy thoughts. So watch for those, and I'll be launching those in the next day or so. So keep an eye out, and we'll talk to you guys soon.